Hello, music makers. Welcome back. Let me know if this seems a little strange to you. In Free Your Mind by Clooney and Prosper, there's this chord stab. It's the same one I used in my video showing how to mix house into drum and bass. Yes, I'm plugging my own video. It did really badly. Anyway, this stab, it just moves between two chords. There's a low one and a high one. I'm pretty sure this is a sample, so the chord inside that sample is fixed. But if we could see the MIDI behind it, it would look like this. The low one there is a B minor, and the high one, E minor. Nothing strange so far. Now, in most cases, you would expect the bass to be doing something like this. B and E following the chords, or vice versa, the chords following the bass. However, this is the strange bit. The bass is actually doing this. It starts on B, but then goes somewhere completely different. Isn't that interesting? Well, the retention stats on this video will tell me how you answered that question. Regardless, I think it's very interesting, and I want to show you why that works. Because it's a super interesting little chord trick you can do to open up more options, especially when you're working with samples. Let's go. So first we need to talk about stab samples. I said earlier that the chord inside a sample is fixed. What I mean by that is when multiple notes are committed to a recording, i.e. sampled, it's like baking a cake. You can't undo it. I can't go back in time and change the ingredients. We can't reach inside that sample and shift any of the notes around, like we can with MIDI. We can change the pitch that the sample is triggered from, but we can't change the relationship of the notes relative to each other. And here's why that can be a problem. For the beginners watching, let me quickly catch you up on the concept of scales. In melodic genres of music, we try to stick to a scale, a set of rules or a set of notes that when everything sticks to it, it fits together a lot easier. The most common by far in modern music is the minor scale, made up of 7 notes. I'll use A minor for this example because it's the easiest to demonstrate in. A minor is just all the white keys starting from A. A, B, C, D, E, F, G are the 7 notes of A minor. Now, when it comes to making chords within a scale, each note of a scale can have a chord based upon it. It's the same pattern each time. We choose a number to start on, 1 to 7, that's known as a scale degree, and then we build this pattern upon it. We press 1, miss 1, press 1, miss 1, press 1, making sure to only use the notes within the scale. In our case, only the white notes. So if I build a chord on every note of the scale, it looks like this. Here are the 7 chords of A minor. So in a nutshell, there's 7 notes of the scale. Each one of them can have a chord built upon it. Okay, so we'll come back to this in a moment. But imagine we didn't have any of this MIDI for a moment. Instead, let's pretend I've downloaded a chord stab sample. It's labeled A minor. What a coincidence. And let's say I'm trying to get it to work with something else, like a vocal. The vocal I have is also in A minor. So those should fit nicely. Good. Now imagine I want to move that chord around. First, let's put that inside a sampler so I can change the pitch easier. Now I can trigger it like this. So it's the same thing, it's just easier to pitch this way instead of pitching each individual audio sample. Now, here's where it gets a bit strange. You'll notice triggering that sample from certain notes of the scale isn't sounding quite right. Listen to what happens when I try to trigger it from note 3, for example. Weird. 4 seems to fit okay. But again, others like 6 sound off. So what's going on there? To explain, I need to go back to the 7 chords in MIDI form. Here's our chord 1, A minor. Imagine this is the stab sample. As I said, this note relationship is now fixed. I can't move these around. Look what happens if I try to trigger this chord shape from note 3. It turns out not all of the notes land inside of the scale. Look at this one. It's because scale notes aren't actually equal distances from one another. Some are next to each other and some are one apart. That pattern is what gives each scale its vibe. But because this pattern is not symmetrical, it means certain chords in the scale are forced to be different shapes. And it turns out the only chords in a minor scale with the same shape as chord 1 are chords 4 and 5. So without being able to shift notes around, the only notes you can trigger from a sample that will fit in a minor scale are 1, 4, and 5. Now, in itself, that's not a problem. Marshall Jefferson, Move Your Body, anyone? I'm not going to say bangers haven't been written with just those 3 options, but sometimes you need a different vibe. There's always the rave option. Disregard scales altogether, trigger some random pitches, swallow the right substances, and hope for the best.
Stay out all night, hit the ground running, superstar, keep the good times coming.
So what if neither of those are the vibes you're after? Well, there is a third way. That's right, we're actually getting to the whole point of the video. I know, but we had to know that stuff before this makes sense. So here's a chord trick that Clooney and Prosper are using. Given that the chord inside our sample is fixed, we can't take notes away, but we can add some. Now, adding notes on top of a chord, that would be extending it. Take A minor, add 1, and now we have A minor 7th. All well and good, but this is still a type of A minor chord. That gives us some new flavors, but doesn't really open up too many new options. Now, what if we could go the other way? I've said a few times on this channel now that music is built from the bottom up. Bass dictates everything. Look at this example. That's just an A minor chord, and the standard way to add bass to that would be to support it with A. Simple stuff. Absolutely fine. Now, let's pretend our chord here is a sample and I can't change it. No problem. With this technique, I still have options. Listen to this. What's going on there? Why does F work? F isn't in A minor. Look, it only contains A, C, and E. So this isn't an inversion. That's when you use one of the other notes of the chord underneath. This is something else. Let me develop this example. Here we've got 2 chords, chord 7, chord 1, G and A. Naturally, to make a bass line, I can just take these lowest notes, copy it onto our bass part. That's too high, let's drop them down the octave. Standard bass part. But using this trick, we can get this. Sound familiar? So the chords aren't changing. Well, the chord part isn't. But introducing certain notes on the bass actually forces the chord to change. Let me show you the theory on why that works. If we look at it with everything together like this, adding F to an A minor chord, you can see what's happening. Now it's just an F chord with an extension. In this case, A minor has become an F major 7 chord. Not that the names really matter, but the important thing is this is no longer a type of A chord. That's why I call this trick a kind of inverted extension, if you will. Now F is still a white note. It's still within our A minor scale. And if we go back to our 7 chords of the scale, we can see that F is number 6. So that option is now open to us. But not only that, because this is now a new shape we've opened up. Look, if we try to line up this F chord with the A, you can see this middle note is different. It turns out this shape happens to fit also scale degrees 3 and 7. So now we have options for 6 out of the 7 chords in a scale. So now let's look at what Clooney and Prosper's bass is doing to those chords. Let me draw in the bass notes. It starts on B, but I'm not going to add a lower one. I want to keep everything close together so we can see what's happening. The next bass note is C. Then it goes to G. and A. So standard bass note to start with, they've added the B to their B minor stab chord. But when the stab changes to E minor, the bass is on C. Exactly the same trick I showed you earlier. Instead of E minor, now that chord is a C major 7th. Now, interestingly, this track is in B minor, and this chord here, C major 7th, is not a chord from the B minor scale. Temporarily, this makes the whole track shift to the Phrygian scale. But the point is, you don't really need to know that. As long as you know what chord your sample contains, you can just work backwards to find out what bass note options you have. Add that bass note to the sample, see if it works. So carrying on, I'll come back to this one. In the next bar, as the sample moves back down to B minor, the bass goes to G. Again, exactly the same relationship as every move I've shown before. Essentially an extension in the other direction. And then as the chord goes back up to E minor, the bass here is on A, and this is different. The reason this works is still the same principle, it's just an extra extension downwards. If you extend this E chord down twice, again, the same pattern, miss one, press one, miss one, press one, we get to A. So now what we have is an A chord with 2 extensions on top. That's a 9th chord. Sure, this bit of the chord is missing, what would be the 3rd, but that's fine, it's implied. The fact that there is a chord with these 4 notes in is why it works. Lastly, coming back to this one, listening to it in this form doesn't really sound great. But again, technically, this is a chord, although this one's a bit of a stretch. If we just keep extending B minor downwards, we do get to a C, making this extension an 11th chord of sorts. But in reality, I think this is just because it makes a better bass line if the bass stays up on the C there. And because the chord moves so quick, you get away with it. Okie dokie, well, I hope you learned something. If you did, you know what to do. Please show your appreciation with the appropriate buttons. Or if you're feeling extra generous, there's a link in the description to buy me a coffee. And until next time, I will see you down there in the comments. Bye-bye.